power creep. Everyone's been talking about it way more after Natlan's release, and just like everyone else, I've wondered if power creep has actually gotten worse after Natlan. Is it even possible to take all the immeasurables a character has and compare it to another character? How do you measure a character's reliance on a constellation like Hu Tao? How do you measure Zhongli's ability to make the game easier, or Malwika's reliance on Natlan characters? If we were able to compare how much a character actually gets used throughout time, wouldn't that correctly factor in all the immeasurables? And so that's what I did. YS Helper is an app that tracks the usage rates of every character for every Abyss since version 3.0. The usage rate for a character is only calculated from the people that actually own them, which is why characters with dedicated fan bases like Siegewing or Rhys appear higher than more popular characters. For this reason, it's important to understand that usage rate is only correlated with strength. They are not directly related. And so, I went through all 48 Abyss cycles since version 3.0, wrote the respective usage rates for all 99 characters, and this is what I found. The first thing that I wanted to know was the best character from every Abyss cycle. Is the best character for every Abyss usually the most recent one? The answer is a definitive no. In fact, the only times where the most used character for an Abyss was the most recent one was in 4.1, 4.2, and 5.3, where Neuvillette, Furina, and Malwika were the best. Azuha led the cast in early Sumeru until Nahida took over in 3.4. Furina's reign has been dominant, where she has been the most used character in 13 Abyss cycles. Bennett and Zhongli have been sprinkled in every now and then, and the only character from version 2.x that made this graph was Yelan in 3.2. The next thing I wanted to know was whether or not certain 5-star characters have fallen off. To figure this out, I looked at the slope of a character's usage rate over time. All of these data points were normalized, since every character's usage rate is expected to decline slightly as more characters are released. Most of the 5-star characters have been relatively used less and less. I didn't include the most recent characters since they don't really have enough Abyss cycles yet, but still, characters that have a positive slope are more likely to be the more recent ones, such as Shilonin, Kanish, and Emily. Klee having a positive slope surprised me, but when looking deeper into her data points, the answer becomes more clear. Here, a value below 0 means that a character is used less than the average amount. Klee might have a positive slope, but she's always been consistently far below average. I've only talked about 5 stars so far, but that's mainly because anyone can acquire 4 stars randomly, even if they don't want them. Therefore, their usage rates are naturally much lower than the 5 stars. In fact, only 12 4 stars have achieved a positive normalized usage rate at some point between 3.0 to 5.6. Sucrose has never had a positive normalized usage rate. Of those 12, only 3 of them have never gone below average. Those characters being Bennett, Eonsan, and Xingqiu, who is on pace to go below average very soon. Xiangling has only gone below average once in 5.4, along with Kuki in the same patch after Hyperbloom took off in 3.3. Everyone else barely went positive, and most only went positive once or twice. But what about characters who have been directly affected by power creep, like Ayato, who saw a drop in usage after Neuvillette's release? Or Yelan, who only saw a rate of decline after Furina's release? Unfortunately, it's too early to tell more direct cases of power creep for Natlan characters. Like, for example, Arlecchino and Malwika is a bit too early to tell right now. But it's not always direct power creep that's an issue. A big complaint people have with power creep right now is that almost every new character in Natlan seems to be the new 4th or 5th best DPS. If this was true, an increase in stronger 5-star characters would mean that older units would become less and less relevant. There hasn't been a better spread DPS than Alhaitham, and yet his graph looks like this. There hasn't really been a new Yai, and yet her graph looks like this. I think it's this breaking point that so many people have unconsciously started to notice. As the newer characters get better and better, the content becomes harder and harder. Even the strong older characters like Raiden, Kokomi, Nilou, and Hu Tao have all fallen below average. Here is a graph of the average normalized value for every 5-star character plotted against release date. The closer a character is to this line, the more balanced they have been overall. It's here you'll see names like Yoimiya, Ayato, Wanderer, Linny, and Mualani, characters that most people would consider underpowered or have a significant flaw. Keep moving up and you'll find bigger names belonging to older characters who hit huge peaks in their initial releases, as well as some new stronger characters. And at the very top, you'll see the characters at the top of every meta tier list. So far in 5.x, we have had 4 of these incredibly high value characters, higher than all of the previous series updates. I said at the beginning that Natlan's power creep has gathered a lot of discussion, but the truth is, power creep has always existed, and unfortunately, it looks like it's only going to get worse.